one day, they were all over MTV, scoring hits and defining the look and sound of 80s hair metal. Then the scene shifted, the audience moved on, and everything changed fast. Almost overnight, many of the bands that ruled the decade were pushed aside. Here I go again on my own. These are 10 hair metal bands that vanished from the mainstream. Number 10, Warrant. We're opening with a band that deserves more respect than the song that defined them ever allowed them to receive. At their commercial peak, Warrant were playing arenas and moving platinum records at a ridiculous pace. They were bigger than people remember. Behind the Punchline was a band that actually had a serious commercial run. When the format collapsed, they lost the infrastructure that had been making them look indestructible. Lane's personal struggles became well documented. The band fractured, reformed, fractured again. They have continued touring in various configurations right up to the present day and still draw audiences on the nostalgia circuit. But the Warrant that walked into arenas with a platinum album under their arm and a genuine shot at longevity had largely vanished by 1993 and never found its way back. Coming up, a band whose rise was so tied to one perfect MTV-era anthem that once the moment passed, almost everything else got erased with it. Number 9, Autograph. Autograph were never a joke, but history has compressed them into one song. They got a massive early break opening for Van Halen in 1984. And for a moment, it looked like they had the kind of launch most Sunset Strip bands would have killed for. Turn Up the Radio became a real hit. Sign In Please went gold, and MTV pushed it the rest of the way. The problem was that the climb did not last. Their next albums charted lower, they never came close to matching that first breakthrough, and by the end of 1989, the band was done. Later versions of Autograph resurfaced, but the one that looked like it might grow into a permanent 80s hard rock fixture burned bright, peaked fast, and vanished from the mainstream almost as quickly as it arrived. Next is a band whose collapse had less to do with the audience walking away than with the people inside it tearing the whole thing apart. Number 8, Dokken. Should have been bigger than they were, and one of the biggest reasons they were not was the presence of huge egos. The tension between Don Dokken and George Lynch is one of the great behind-the-scenes disasters of the entire era. Lynch was one of the genuinely elite guitarists of the 80s rock world. Don Dokken had the voice and the songwriting instincts to match him. Together, they made 3 straight platinum studio albums. The band fell apart through pure interpersonal chemistry failure. By the time they reformed, and they reformed more than once, the chemistry had curdled into something that produced diminishing returns every time. The tragedy with Dokken is that the audience did not turn on them first. They got in their own way, and the version of the band that could have gone even higher never survived it. Stick around. Number 7 is one of the few bands on this list fronted by a woman, and she had one of the most underrated voices of the entire decade. Number 7, Vixen. Vixen belongs on this list and deserved to be discussed with real respect. The band could play. Jan Kunneman was a serious guitarist, and Janet Gardner had a voice that belonged on the same stages as anyone in the format. They weren't a gimmick, and they did not break through on image alone. The debut album went gold, put 2 songs into the Hot 100, and for a moment, it looked like they had a real lane in the mainstream. But the window was short. Rev It Up charted lower, the early 90s shift hit, and the momentum did not hold. They have reformed multiple times with varying lineups and continue to tour, but the mainstream moment was brief. Up next, a band whose disappearance was so complete, it turned one of the decade's best guitarists into a rock and roll mystery. Number 6, White Lion. If you're looking for the most mysterious disappearance on this list, this is it. White Lion were not just another Sunset Strip clone. For one thing, they were based in New York, and for another, they had Vito Bratta. In the late 80s, Bratta was one of those guitarists people kept comparing to Eddie Van Halen. His technique was terrifyingly good, and when paired with Mike Tramp's songwriting, it helped turn the 1987 album Pride into a double platinum breakthrough. They had huge hits with Wait and the acoustic ballad When the Children Cry, which reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. But the fall was as fast as the rise. Their 1991 album Main Attraction never came close to sustaining that breakthrough as the scene shifted. The band fractured, played their final show in Boston in September 1991, and then silence. When Mike Tramp eventually resurfaced, Vito Bratta, one of the most gifted guitarists of his generation, essentially vanished from the music world for years. That era of White Lion became a ghost story. When the children cry, let them know. 2 more before the top 3. Number 5 has one of the most recognizable sounds of the entire decade, and a commercial story that most people have only half remembered correctly. Number 5. Winger. I can't get enough of you, baby. Winger are a band that got turned into a punchline and did not deserve it. Beavis and Butthead put a Winger shirt on the character everyone was supposed to laugh at, and the cultural damage from that recurring joke was genuinely significant. It helped reframe how a generation of younger rock fans remembered a band that had 2 platinum albums, a legitimately distinctive sound, and a frontman in Kip Winger whose musical depth ran deeper than the stereotype attached to the band. The Beavis and Butthead effect, combined with the grunge transition, created a situation Winger could not recover from commercially. Kip Winger has continued recording and has also built a parallel career as a serious composer of orchestral music, which tells you something about the depth that was always there underneath the spandex and the hair. The band has reformed and released new music as recently as 2023, but by then, the joke had already outlived the truth. Number 4 is a band whose story involves one of the most heartbreaking vocal setbacks in rock history, and a catalog that deserves better than the footnote it has become. Number 4, Cinderella. Tom Kiefer had one of the greatest voices in rock and roll. Not just hair metal, rock and roll. The rasp, the range, the emotional delivery put him in a different category from most of his contemporaries. Cinderella were also a better band musically than their image suggested. They were legitimate commercial heavyweights at the peak of the format. Then Kiefer developed paresis, a serious partial paralysis affecting his vocal cords. The timing was devastating. He came back and has continued performing and recording. The voice that returned is a remarkable thing given what it went through. But by the time he had rebuilt enough to move forward, the commercial machine that had once supported Cinderella was gone. 3 left. The final 3 are the bands whose commercial dominance was so total that their vanishing hit the mainstream like a genuine loss. Number 3, Rat. Round and Round came out in 1984 and helped establish the sonic template that an entire genre spent the next several years trying to replicate. The band's decline was not just about grunge. Internal chemistry problems, lineup changes, and the particular kind of entropy that hits bands who have been running hard for a decade all contributed. By the early 90s, they were already fraying before Seattle finished the job. What followed was one of the messier extended endings on the list. Multiple breakups and reformations, legal disputes over the band name that went on for years. Various configurations touring under the Rat banner with different combinations of original members, creating confusion about what the band actually was at any given moment. The music from 1984 to 1988 stands completely on its own merits. That version of Rat was one of the best pure hair metal bands that ever existed. The story of what came after is a reminder that commercial success and band chemistry are two different problems, and solving the first one does not automatically solve the second. Two left. Number 2 hit a commercial peak so massive that it briefly showed just how big this format could get. Their 1987 album was a commercial juggernaut. Then the momentum turned, and it turned fast. Number 2, Whitesnake. Here I go again on my own. The 1987 Whitesnake album is one of the defining commercial documents of the entire decade. The album went 8 times platinum in the United States. That number belongs in the conversation with the biggest selling records of the era, regardless of genre. What makes Whitesnake's story interesting in the context of this list is how completely and how quickly the commercial trajectory reversed. Slip of the Tongue in 1989 had Steve Vai on guitar and was a technically impressive record that still did solid business. But the moment had already started shifting. By the early 90s, the format was gone, and Coverdale was navigating a landscape that had no obvious place for what he did. He kept Whitesnake alive for years after that, but the peak was over. And now number 1, the band that did not just succeed in the 80s, but became one of the clearest public faces of the entire movement. Number 1, Poison. If you had to put one band in a time capsule to explain to someone who had never heard of hair metal what the genre looked, sounded, and felt like at its commercial peak, you would put Poison in that capsule. At their commercial peak, Poison were not just one of the biggest hair metal bands, they were one of the biggest bands in America. The grunge transition hit Poison as hard as it hit anyone on this list, because they embodied almost everything the new movement was rejecting. There was no easy pivot from that. Bret Michaels maintained the highest individual profile of anyone on this list through solo work, reality television, and the kind of relentless self-promotion you have to respect even if it operates in very different territory from where it started.
Talk dirty to me.
In later years, Poison became a powerful nostalgia draw, especially on package tours with other bands from the era. They put out Crack a Smile and More in 2000, and it got minimal attention. By then, the recording side of the story had long since stopped carrying the cultural weight it once did. But the 80s version of Poison was something special in the context of what the format was trying to do. They achieved the complete embodiment of the hair metal dream more fully than almost anyone else. The look, the sound, the commercial success, the cultural visibility, all of it at once. All of it at maximum volume. And when that moment passed, it passed for good. Which one of these bands do you think deserved a longer run at the top? And which one do you think the mainstream was right to move on from? Tell us in the comments.